Hey, good morning. Welcome back to Duty's Daggers. I tried to like this knife, the American Blade Works Model 1. I even put thumb studs on it. I drilled a hole. I put some extra Chavez thumb studs on it, which I think looks pretty cool. And it's better. It's definitely better with the thumb studs. But I cannot get into it. And I really gave it a chance because I want to like it. It's an American-made knife, you know. There's elements I really like about it, but just as a whole, it's not speaking to me. So let's go over it really quick. This is about a $200 knife. It's in MagnaCut. Micarta Scales milled titanium clip. I actually really like the clip. I think this is a great clip. Works well, looks good, nice and just simple, but works great. It's lefty friendly. You got an inset pocket clip spot on the lefty side. Micarta is pretty nice. It feels textury. It looks good too. You have a nice backspacer too. I like that. I kind of like the fact that you can see the milling lines in the blade bevel. I think that kind of looks cool. It's ground pretty good. Pretty nice and thin behind the edge. The blade stock's pretty average for this size knife, but it's nice and thin behind the edge. The sharpening choil is okay. Could definitely be a little bit larger and a little bit more room, but you do have a little separation between where it starts to get thick from the plunge grind and where the edge ends, so that's good. I like the pivot, I kind of like that. It says ABW on it. The choke up spot's nice. Kind of reminds me of a Demco in a way, where the flipper tab kind of makes a little shelf for you. You can get right over that nicely. The ergos are overall pretty good. Chokes back as well as choked up. I think where it falls apart for me is really the action on this knife. And it's hard to explain. So first of all, the detent's not great. I can easily fail this, but I can also easily not fail it. I can easily just put a little more oomph and get it to flip well. It's just not that smooth. It always feels like there's some kind of like grittiness in the pivot. I've taken it apart, I think like 3 times now, cleaned it up, oiled it, and I've been flipping this thing and messing with it. So it's, had some time to break in, and it's just not, it doesn't feel smooth on the drop. Now the flipping action, like I said, I can fail it. I can also not fail it. But it's just not a satisfying knife to flip. And this might sound like I'm being picky, but there are so many really good knives out there that I can afford to be a little more picky about some things. And it's just not a super satisfying knife to flip. It's just not. It doesn't slam out with very much force, and it doesn't make very much of a good sound either when it locks up. It's kind of just like, it makes kind of a muted little click. It's just not satisfying. It's not satisfying to flip. It's really not. Now with the thumb studs, you get more leverage and a little bit more oomph behind the flick, so that feels a little better. But still, it doesn't make a great sound. It feels like the lock bar is just kind of lazily boom, popping over into the lock position. I can reverse flick it now. Let's see. Yeah, with the thumb stud. I think it should have came with thumb studs, because it did greatly improve the knife for me. Just having that extra option of how to deploy the knife made definitely a big difference for me, but still just not quite enough for me to want to carry and use this knife. Now I will say, it cut great, and the heat treat on this MagnaCut is very nice, very good. It's definitely probably in the top 5 MagnaCut blades that I've tested. It just held an edge a lot longer than some other magnet cut I've tried, so that's great. I heard a couple people say that this thing has crazy cutting geometry, and it's pretty good. I wouldn't definitely not say that it's crazy, like out of this world, super unique. It's got a thin measurement behind the edge. It's like I don't know, between 10 and 13 thousandths, which is great. But the blade stock is just, it's not thin. It's just at regular average. So it slices fine, but not as well as something with a much thinner blade stock. I feel like a majority, some people, I'll say, when they see that a blade has a thin measurement behind the edge, they assume that it's just automatically a super slicer. And that's not always the case. There's other factors. Blade stock thickness, for example, is, I think, even a little more important than behind the edge thickness as far as sliciness. If you look at a TRM, really any TRM, shadow, neutron, atom, they're going to be thicker behind the edge than this knife. They're going to be more 15, 16 thousandths, maybe even a little higher, but much, much thinner blade stock. A little bit wider blade and a full flat grind. And they slice better than this knife because it's a thinner material that's passing through the cardboard. And that's more important than a thinner material just at the edge. You can get an axe sharp enough to shave paper, but it's not going to cut cardboard well. So just because it cuts paper well does not mean it's going to be a slicey knife. So that's kind of a good way to think about it. You know, the less material you have that you're forcing through the whatever you're cutting, the better it's going to cut. The slicier it's going to cut, the easier it's going to be to push it through. So it's just not going to be as slicey as like a TRM, a quiet carry drift, you know, something like that with much thinner blade stock. So it cuts pretty good. The heat treat is awesome. It cuts fine, but it's not this like insane cutting geometry that that I was led to believe. So yeah, I mean, it really comes down to the action for me. You know, I have other knives that have just as good a heat treat, just as good a cutter, or even better, that are much more satisfying and fun and reliable to flip or flick. So that's really what it comes down to. This is on bearings. It's not like it's washers or anything. And I guess the overall design is part of it too. It doesn't really speak to me. It's kind of odd that they have all this extra handle. You can see where the tip ends and all that extra handle that doesn't need to be there. So I feel like the handle to blade ratio is a little off. Like it feels like a big handle with a smaller blade in it, which it is. So that's another little thing. The fact that I needed to put my own thumb studs on, that's kind of a big one, because a lot of people aren't going to have the tools to put in their own thumb stud, and they're going to have to pay someone else to do it. So depending on how much they get charged, you know, that's another, I don't know, $50, $60, whatever. So it turns into a $250 knife instead of a $200 knife. And I think $250 for this is a little much. The liners are stainless and the backspacer is stainless. The only thing that's titanium is the clip here. So there's that too. So there's nothing wrong with stainless steel, but it's heavier than titanium, and titanium is just a nicer material. Feels nicer, looks nicer. Yeah. It's fine. It's fine. It's not for me. I tried. I gave it a chance. Moral of the story is I'm going to be selling this. If anyone's interested, hit me up. I'll leave the nice Chavez thumb studs on for you. if the design's really for you, and if you think you don't mind the action not being super nice, then hit me up. I'll sell it to you. So I'm not going to give up on ABW. I hear their button lock's really good. Honestly, when people say a button lock is really snappy, I'm always pretty skeptical, because I've tried button locks in the past that people said were snappy and they just weren't, or they weren't as snappy as people were saying. So I would love to try it. I hear that it's pretty snappy, but who knows? So I would love to try one. I also kind of want to try their full titanium version. Maybe those are nicer. But as far as this one, the Model 1 in my Carta, not for me. What it really comes down to for me is, will I put this in my pocket when I'm getting ready in the morning over other knives? The answer is no. Not once have I put this in my pocket and given it priority over other knives in my collection. Just haven't. Not even once. Just haven't felt like carrying it. So that's the answer. So there you go. Like the video. Let me know what you think down below. Let me know what you think about this subject. We'll talk about it. Love ya. I'll see you soon.